Hello everyone, my name's Tina Smith and today we are going to create a project for Paper Tray Ink. I'm super excited to be here at the Paper Tray Ink YouTube channel. Today we're going to create a couple of projects, kind of a 2-for-1. We're going to use the positive and the negative of this beautiful die, and then to embellish our card we're going to be using this brand new stamp set. This is the Posies and Sprigs Stamp Set. Beautiful sprigs in here. They're layerable, but very simple to layer. You just layer basically the spine on the leaves and then the inside detail for the flowers. There's also flower centers, which makes it nice. So I'll be using this along with the coordinating dies today. And then for my background, we are going to be using the cover plate die. This is the Decorative Circles, and it is an A2 size, so it'll fit a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch card front beautifully. I love the dotted detail in here. This is such a beautiful die. I think this is one for a stash keeper, I would say, because it's great for so many things. And I'm going to use the positive and negative of this to show you how easy it is. For my sentiments, we're going to be using a few new stamp sets. I've already used this before in a project. This is the Just Sentiments quotes, and I love the sentiments in here, and we're going to use that for one of our cards, along with the Inside Greetings Quotes for Friendship stamp set. Now this is meant to go on the inside of your card project, but it's great for outside projects too. So it's nice because you can put it on the inside or outside, however you please, and today we're going to use it for the outside of another one of our cards. So we are going to jump in by doing a little bit of stamping first. Before we do our stamping, I do want to start by die cutting out my images first with white cardstock. So I'm going to take a couple pieces of white cardstock, and I'm going to die cut. I'm going to keep the positive and the negative of the pieces that I'm going to die cut out. Okay, I die cut out all the images that I'm going to use. We have 3 of these beautiful sprigs, and then these 2, and then 2 flowers, and then a smaller flower. I'm going to use the negative because it's just going to help me position my stamped images in my MISTI. Now what I did is took some Post-it note tape. I have a big roll, and we're going to use this again. So if you have some light tack tape, break it out, because that's what we're going to use for our project today. But I just lightly tacked the back side of my panels, and then this way we can go ahead and add we're going to go ahead and inlay our images, and this is just again going to make it easier for us to stamp. I die cut out 3 of these, and so repeated stamping is really nice when you have a template like this. Let me go ahead and insert our flower. Okay, we'll just press that in there. That's where your Post-it note comes in handy because it stays intact. Okay, now we're going to bring in our stamping positioner. I'm using my MISTI for my project today, and we're going to add a little bit of adhesive behind each of our panels. I'm just going to use a tape runner, and then we'll lightly tack this down to our MISTI. I just think this is easier. Okay, now we're going to take our stamp, and this is where it's very easy. We're going to go ahead and take our base image, which is our most solid image, and I'm going to line it up over all of the images on my panel. Very easy. Once we have our images lined up, I'm going to go ahead and start by inking up my leaf flourish here, and we're going to use Limeade Ice for that largest, and I'm going to just do one at a time. It's going to make it a lot easier. I'll go ahead and press down, and it stamps beautifully. I'm going to remove this, and since I have 2 more leaves, I'm going to go ahead and do these extra ones. So we'll just add these. This is where that Post-it note tape comes in really handy. And we will ink this up again. This is great for repeated stamping. Multiples. It's fabulous. Okay. And our 3rd leaf is completed. I'm going to go ahead and clean off my leaf. And then we're going to do our flower next. For our flower, we're going to use Harvest Gold for the largest flower. I prefer doing it one at a time because this way my ink doesn't dry out and it's just easier for me. And it stamps beautifully. We have 2 flowers, so I'm going to go ahead and take this one out and go ahead and insert this one. And then we'll repeat the process. It just makes it really easy when you have that template in the background. And you can keep the template too. Keep that in your stamp set. That way you have it for next time. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and clean off this image. And then we have our small flower here. I just want to stamp one. And we are going to use a blue ink. We're going to use Hawaiian Shores for that one. It's a pretty teal. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and put my leaf back in here. And then we can remove our first layer. We'll just put these back. Our second layer is good to go. Now I'm going to go bold with my second layer, and I'm going to be using my True Black ink. I'm going to ink this up. And I'm not going to do the largest flower. I'm just going to use the black ink for this flower center and then for the spines of the leaf. For the larger flower, I inked it up with my orange zest to make it a tone on tone. I just think it's going to make it a little bit softer. So we'll remove this. And then we are going to go ahead and repeat the process one more time with our True Black ink here. And then we'll remove this, and then I'm going to add some orange. This is orange zest again to my larger flower. Beautiful. So our first set of flower and leaves are all done. You can see here, very easy. I'm going to go ahead and take out this template. Let's clean off our... I'm going to go ahead and take out this template. And then we're going to put in our second batch of leaves. We're going to go ahead and just basically repeat the process. We will line up our leaves over our die cut leaf. For these 2 leaves, I want to do 2 different colors. I'm going to bring in the Hawaiian Shore for the 3-leaf sprig, and we'll stamp that. I'll ink it up just one more time for good measure. And then, oh, we popped out. And then for my single leaf foliage, for my single leaf sprig, we're going to go in with our Harvest Gold. Such a pretty golden color. And I'll ink that up. And then I'll use our True Black ink for that detail layer. We'll just ink these up. And again, these are great for multiples. Okay, our leaves are all good. Just take these out. I have to add one more flower center to our flowers here, and I like the dotted. This one has like little dots, and I think that's going to go perfect for our posy here. So I'm just going to stamp it once right in the middle with the same black ink. And then our stamping is all done. So I'm going to set these aside, and we're going to work on our background. So we're going to take our Decorative Circles background die, and I don't know if the camera will pick those dotted detail up, but it's so pretty. I'm going to take some white cardstock, and I'm going to die cut out my panel. I'm going to run this through my die cut machine. Now when I run this through, I'm going to try and keep all the pieces in it. So I ran it through my die cutting machine, and you can see it die cut out beautifully, and all the pieces stayed intact. which is exactly what I wanted. Because now I'm going to take some Post-it note tape. If you have a low tack tape, go for it. You can take that out. Sometimes a masking paper is a low tack tape too. You could use a masking paper for this. But I have a roll of Post-it note tape. I'm going to add Post-it note tape behind my die. It's still in there. And then I'm going to use my craft pick. And I'm going to make sure that all the white areas stick to my Post-it note tape. So I'm just lifting and lightly pressing down. And I'm not concerned about the little squares in the center of our circles. I'll show you what I mean in a minute. Once I think I got it all, I can go ahead and try and carefully take it away. And I have one piece there. For the most part, all of the little squares in here, let me see, these ones stayed intact, but that's okay. We don't need those squares. So we are just going to make sure that all these circles are in their home on that Post-it note tape behind here. You might want to press down a little bit. Okay, I'm going to zoom in. So this is what our background looks like so far with our Post-it note on the back. Okay, and then what we're going to do next is do a little bit of ink blending over the top. To do that, since these are small areas, I'm going to use my finger daubers and those same inks that we use for our flowers. So I have Harvest Gold, Hawaiian Shore, Orange Zest, and Limeade Ice. I think those are some nice bright colors. We're going to start off with Orange Zest, again using my finger dauber, and I'm going to go over. If you look at your pattern, you have a circle here, and then you have 4 sides to the circle. This top left side, I'm going to ink up with my Orange Zest. And I'm going to do that to all of those top left circles. And then we'll skip a row here. So I have all my Orange Zest done. Okay. For our next color, we're going to go on the top right of that circle, and for that we will use Harvest Gold, and we will add a little bit of that Harvest Gold. And again, we're going to just repeating the pattern, and you can go around the edges, filling in those open areas. Okay, I think that looks wonderful. Kind of a zigzag. Okay, now we have the bottom left part of the circle. For that, we're going to use our Hawaiian Shore. For this one, you want to be careful not to overlap into the Orange Zest, because it does kind of create a little muddy effect. You kind of don't want that. But all those bottom left circle pieces, you're going to want to fill in. So far, so good. Now for our last color, we're going to be using Limeade Ice. And we're just going to fill in that area that's left. Very easy. Kind of looks like a mess, but bear with me. It's going to turn out beautiful. Okay, I'm going to use my heat gun to kind of help dry the ink. And then what we're going to do is take some more low tack tape, and I'm going to go over the front this time of my background. Let's get a bigger piece. This time we're going to go over the front with our low tack tape. We're going to press it down really good. So we have the front, and then this is the back. Now what we're going to do is carefully remove that tape from the back. Okay, and if you slide really slow, all the pieces should remain. Here we go. Well, And if they don't, just push them back in there. Okay, and keep this tape. You can put it back on your roll because it's still good. And then we'll do the same to the opposite side. Put my Post-it note tape back because we can use that again. So we have the front side that's covered, back side, we remove the tape. Now on each of the circles, let me show you. On these circle pieces, we are going to add foam adhesive behind each one of those. And I'm just going to use some foam squares. And you want to make sure that they're small enough and they fit the width. But you're just going to basically add foam adhesive behind all of these foam squares. I'm just finishing removing the release paper off of all of my foam squares, and there is a lot, quite a bit, but the result is stunning, and I think it's so worth the effort. Okay, so we have all the release paper removed, and we have foam squares behind all those. You can see it, that's quite a bit, but it's going to turn out so neat. Okay, next we're going to take our card base, which is a standard A2 size card base. Okay, I'm going to go ahead, line up the corners. Since this is a card front panel, it's super easy to do. I'm going to line up the corner to the opposite corner and just press down really good. And again, this is your card base. So once that's adhered, you press down really good. Let those foam squares tack to that paper. Okay, and then we can remove our Post-it note tape. Now this you could reuse also, so don't waste, you don't want to waste that, you can reuse that. Okay, and then I'm going to remove this one. You don't have to be gentle when you remove this. Now you can remove the top piece of your decorative circles, and then you have a beautiful, look at the dimension that is. Isn't that so pretty? You have a beautiful pattern on your card base. And then for this, you can punch out all the squares, and I think this is so super pretty too, especially against a card base. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and flip this around. Let's zoom back out a little bit. I'm going to flip this around, and we're going to add some glue behind here, and we're going to tack this down to our card base. Then we can go ahead and adhere that to the card front. And it just lines up beautifully. And we have two beautiful backgrounds with one die. So you can see it's so worth the wait. I'm going to lightly tack down my card base because it wants to keep opening. And then we're going to go ahead and embellish our cards. First we're going to stamp our sentiment. So we are going to start off with our inside greetings, the quotes for friendship. And I'm going to lightly tack that on the inside. If you can use your magnet, guys, I like to tack my panels to my MISTI. It's easier for me. But of course, if you have your magnet, go for it. I'm going to stamp the sentiment that says, I like me a little bit more when I'm with you. The author is unknown, but I think that's going to work perfectly. And I'm going to stamp it a little bit more towards the left, because this way I can add some flowers to the right. And I'm going to use my True Black ink for my sentiment here. We'll just ink that up. And we will stamp that. And it stamps beautifully. My next piece of cardstock. Now this is a 2-inch by 3 3/4 inch strip of cardstock. I'm going to add my next sentiment, and this one is from our quotes, our Just Sentiment quotes. For this card, I love this little sentiment that says, "You got this." And I'm going to stamp it about 3/4 inches from the top of my panel, because I'm going to put some twine up here. So I'm just going to make sure it's a little bit to the right, and we'll ink up this. And it's stamped beautifully. So now both of our sentiments are stamped. I do want to trim this down, so I'll take my paper trimmer. Okay, so both of our sentiments are done. this sentiment's going to go on this card, and we're just going to basically directly adhere it over our pattern. And I'm just going to use my tape runner for that. I'm going to go about 1.5 inches up from the bottom. And this is going to go the length, of my card base. And then we have our little leaf flourishes here. Let's add our yellow. Then I'll add my green. And I'm just using my tape runner to adhere these. And then you can see the black spine, how it just stands out. I love that. And then we're going to add our last one on the bottom here. Now we're going to go ahead and take our next panel, and for this one I'm going to put our florals on our little piece of cardstock, but I do want to V the bottom. We're going to fishtail the bottom of this, some twine, and we're going to wrap it around a few times and then tie a bow off to, maybe 4 times is a good time, and then we'll tie a bow off to the right here. And then we can add our greenery. We'll add some adhesive to the bottom. We'll add our sprigs. We'll add our second one down here. This one I want to overlap on the bottom. See how they kind of crisscross? I'm not worried about that because we're going to add our flowers. We're going to flip these over. I want to add some foam adhesive behind our flowers here. Okay, I think that looks wonderful. Now we're going to flip this around. I'm going to add some foam squares behind here. Then we're going to add this to the center of our card. Make sure it's even. Lovely. And then I think we're going to add a bow to the bottom of this little lonely sprig. I'm going to wrap it around the base of the leaf here. And then we'll just tie a bow with some of our natural twine. Now we're almost done. I do want to add a little bit of sparkle to my flower centers, and for that I'm going to be using some unicorn stickles. And I'm going to go around the center of the flowers, kind of leaving a little bit of that black showing on our posies. And then over here, I just want to add a few little dots, just bringing some sparkle to those leaves. And then that finishes off my projects for today for Paper Tray Ink. I hope you have a wonderful day. I thank you so much for joining me. It's kind of a 2-for-1 project day, but I love the positives and negatives. I like that you can use both pieces, and both pieces still look so pretty. Have a great day. We will see you soon. Bye-bye.